Hey guys, we're back. Are you ready for Fablehaven? Did you have an exciting morning? I don't know if you felt the earthquake or not, but it was pretty strong at my house. It shook things up. Leroy was a little bit freaked out. Scooter just kind of laid there while everything shook around for a little bit. So I hope everyone is good and that you are having a good day. The sun's out right now, so hope you've been enjoying the nice weather before a storm moves in. We're supposed to get some really weird weather coming in. So I'm on page 76 in book 3 of Fablehaven. And remember, Kendra is at the Knights of the Dawn meeting, and she just met some of her people. So, oh, just had a little bit more, another earthquake just now. That was fun. Ooh. Well, that was exciting. Here's Leroy. Leroy, say hi. Say hi, Leroy. And then Scooty's over there too. There's Scooter. Yeah, they're just kind of chilling. We'll just get set back up here and get reorganized. All right. I know, Leroy, it was scary, huh? Oh, sorry, my phone stand is being weird. Whoop. Sorry, it's not as smooth as it was yesterday. Doesn't want to hold my phone up. Darn earthquake. All right, here we go. As part of agreeing to be a knight, you'll occasionally receive assignments specific to your area of expertise, Dugan said. Remember, Dugan is the lieutenant of Kendra's East group. Generally, until you resign, by accepting membership in the Brotherhood, you are committing to come when called and to serve where needed. All costs incurred will be reimbursed. In addition, you will receive a stipend to more than cover lost wages. If you betray secrets or perform in a manner that causes an unusual concern for the safety of the knights, we reserve the right to expel you from the Brotherhood. We are friends to all magical creatures and to the refuges where they dwell, the captain said. We are foes to all who seek to harm and exploit them. Have you any questions? Don't you find it peculiar that we can't know who our leader is? The teenage boy asked. Not ideal, the captain admitted, but regrettably necessary. The word that comes to mind is cowardly, the teenager said. Kendra felt her pulse quicken. She would never have expected such boldness from a teenager with a stuttering problem. It made her feel simultaneously excited and uncomfortable. The captain was about the right height to be the Sphinx. How would he react? I've been called worse, the captain said, remaining friendly. You are not the first knight to suggest dispensing with the masks, but given a recent breach in security that I am not at liberty to discuss, compartmentalizing our information has become more crucial than ever. I get not sharing everything with everybody, the teenager said. I only wish I knew who was giving me assignments. I suspect, were our positions reversed, I would feel as you do, Gavin, the captain said. Have you paused to consider that perhaps behind this mask is a person known to the society? Perhaps I wear this mask not for my benefit, but to protect the other knights, to prevent the society from using me to get to them. Gavin stared at his feet. Makes sense. Chin up. I called for questions. Are there any other concerns? I beg your pardon, said the older lady, but aren't these two a little young for this kind of service? The captain picked up a poker and jabbed a log in the fire, sending up a flurry of sparks. Given these dangerous times, we've tightened our entry requirements more than ever. On top of a spotless background and overwhelming evidence of reliable character, prospective knights must also have unique strategic value. Kendra and Gavin both possess unusual talents that qualify them to lend highly specialized assistance, not unlike your usefulness, Estelle, as a gifted archivist and researcher. Don't omit my world-renowned experience with a broadsword, the elderly woman bragged. A broadsword is a really big, heavy sword. She winked at Kendra and Gavin. That was a joke. Anything else? The captain asked, facing each of them in turn. None of them volunteered any further questions or comments. Then I will formally induct you and leave you to mingle. Keep in mind, now, as always, you are welcome to decline the invitation to join our community. If you wish to proceed, raise your right hand. The captain raised his. Kendra, Gavin, and Estelle lifted their hands. Repeat after me. I pledge to keep the secrets of the Knights of the Dawn and to aid my fellow knights in their worthy goals. They repeated the words and then lowered their hands. Congratulations, the captain said. Your knighthood is official. Glad to have you on our side. Take a few minutes to get acquainted before we begin the gathering. The captain crossed to the door and exited the room. Not so bad, was it? Warren said over Kendra's shoulder, patting her on the back. I'm Warren Burgess, by the way, he said to the other new knights. Estelle Smith, the elderly woman said. Gavin Rose, the teenager said. Kendra Sorensen, Kendra said. Warren and I go way back, Dugan said. Since before you were a lieutenant. Warren lowered his voice slightly. Since we last spoke, you've seen the captain without his mask. Just between the five of us. Who is he? You're sure it's a he? Dugan asked. 90%. Manly build, manly walk. You've been out of touch for a while, Dugan said. I thought you'd abandoned the cause. I'm still around, Warren said, not elaborating that he had spent the previous few years as a catatonic albino. Kendra, you've met Dugan's brother. His brother? Kendra asked. Then she realized why Dugan looked familiar. Oh, Maddox. That's right, his last name was Fisk. Dugan nodded. He's not officially a knight. Hears his own drum beating too loudly for that, though he's helped us out on occasion. But here we are, monopolizing the conversation, Warren apologized. Gavin Rose, you say? Any relation to Chuck Rose? My father. No joke. I never knew Chuck had a kid. He's one of our best guys. Why isn't he here with you? He died 7 months ago, Gavin said. Christmas Day in the Himalayas, one of the 7 sanctuaries. Warren's smile vanished. I'm sorry to hear that. I've been out of the loop. People wonder why I want to follow in his footsteps, Gavin said, looking at the floor. I never knew Mom. I have no siblings. Dad kept me a secret from all of you because he didn't want me to get involved, at least not until I was 18. But he shared what he did with me, taught me a lot. I have some natural aptitude for it. There's an understatement, Dugan chuckled. Chuck's best friend, Aaron Santos, brought Gavin to our attention. You remember Aaron, don't you, Warren? He's here tonight. We had been hearing rumors for years that Chuck was secretly raising a child. Little did we know how much he took after his old man and then some. We actually have assignments for Gavin and Kendra immediately following the gathering. An assignment she can do here? Warren asked. Dugan shook his head. Going someplace. Tomorrow morning. Warren scowled. Not without me and not unless I sign off. Dugan, she's 14. I'll fill you in, Dugan promised. It's important. We'll keep her safe. There was a knock at the door. Masks, Dugan said, covering his face. Enter, he called once the others had done likewise. A figure in a silver mask peered in. Time for the gathering, a nasally male voice announced. Thank you, Dugan nodded at the speaker. Off we go then. Chapter 5. First Assignment. Dugan and Warren led the way down the lavish main hall. As Kendra passed a suit of armor, she glimpsed her warped reflection in the breastplate, an anonymous silver mask under a hood. Gavin fell into step beside her. Nice how we got to know each other so well, he said bitterly. They didn't leave us much time, Kendra agreed. I don't always stutter, you know, he said. It gets worse when I'm uncomfortable. I hate it. Once I get going, I focus on my words too much and the problem snowballs. It isn't a big deal, Kendra said. They advanced down the hall in silence, eyes aimed downward. Gavin rubbed the sleeve of his robe between his fingers. The quietness became awkward. Kind of a cool castle, Kendra said. Not bad, he replied. It's funny. I thought for sure I'd be the youngest knight, and then pretty much the first person I meet has me beat by 2 years. Maybe it will turn out that the captain is really just a freakishly tall third grader. Kendra smiled. I turn 15 in October. 18 months younger then, said Gavin. You must have quite a talent. I guess somebody thinks so, she said. Don't feel any pressure to talk about it, said Gavin. I can't really share mine either. They were almost to the end of the hall. Gavin rubbed the side of his mask. These masks are the worst. Instant claustrophobia. I'm still not sold on the idea. It seems to me like masks would make it easier for traitors to hide, but I guess these guys have been at it longer than I have. The system must have some benefits. You know what the assembly is about? He asked. No. You? Kendra said. A little. Dugan mentioned they're concerned about the society and tightening security. At the end of the hall, they passed through a grand doorway into an airy ballroom. Strands of tiny white lights illuminated the room, the glossy wood floor gently reflecting the mellow luminance. 20 round tables stood around the ballroom, positioned to make every seat as close as possible to a lectern on a stage. Each table had 6 chairs, and most were occupied by knights. Kendra estimated there were now at least 100 present. On the tables farthest from the stage had vacant chairs. Warren and Dugan claimed the last 2 seats at a table toward the middle of the room. Kendra, Gavin, and Estelle crossed to the rear table farthest from the entrance, filling in the remaining 3 seats. Kendra had scarcely scooted her chair forward when the knights stood up together. The captain, spotlighted, strode to the lectern, golden mask flashing. The knights burst into applause. The captain motioned for the knights to be seated. The clapping subsided, and the knights sank back into their chairs. Thank you all for assembling on such short notice, the captain said into a microphone, his voice now a dignified male with a clipped English accent. We try to keep united gatherings to a minimum, but I felt recent circumstances warranted a special convocation. Not all eligible knights were able to attend. 7 were unreachable, 2 were hospitalized, and 12 were engaged in activities that I granted priority over today's gathering. You know I do not relish wasting words. Over the past 5 years, the Society has become more active than during any other period in history. If preserves keep falling at the present rate, none will be functional within 2 decades. Furthermore, we know that our Brotherhood has been infiltrated by members of the Society. I am not referring to leaked information. I am referring to full-fledged members of the Society wearing masks and robes among us. The last remark caused a stir as knights throughout the room murmured to each other. Kendra heard more than one exclamation of outrage. The captain raised his hands. The confirmed traitor has been apprehended. We know who that traitor is, right? And the worst damage she intended to do was curtailed. Some of you may have noticed old friends who are not present tonight. Some of those may be among the 21 knights unable to attend for legitimate reasons. Others may be among the 17 knights I have discharged over the past 2 months. This announcement initiated another round of hushed comments. The captain waited for the whispered remarks to end. I am not saying all 17 of these knights were traitors, but they are knights with suspicious ties who have spent too much time fraternizing with questionable individuals. They are knights who have been unnecessarily free with covert information. Let their fate serve as a warning to us all. We will not tolerate the sharing of secrets, and we will not endure even the appearance of disloyalty. The stakes are too high, the danger too real. Allow me to read the names of the discharged knights in case they try to solicit further information from any of us. He went on to list 17 names. None of them were familiar to Kendra. If any of you know concrete reasons why I should reconsider the ruling against a certain individual, please feel at liberty to consult me after this meeting. I take no joy in disenfranchising allies. All of these knights could have been useful to us in the coming days, weeks, months, and years. My intent is not to deplete our ranks, but I would rather be weakened than crippled. I ask each of you to set a new standard in loyalty, in discretion, and in vigilance. Do not share secrets, even with other knights, unless the information is desperately relevant to the recipient. Please report any suspicious activities along with any new intelligence you encounter. Despite our most diligent efforts, traitors could remain among us. He paused, letting the words sink in. The room was silent. I also gathered you here tonight to petition you for information. Each of you is familiar with the preserves hidden across the globe. Beyond these, there are certain refuges not commonly known even among the Knights of the Dawn. Not even I know all of them. Some of you know about some of these places. To my unspeakable alarm, even our most hidden sanctuaries are now coming under attack. In fact, they are rapidly becoming the focus of society activity. I ask those of you who can identify the location of any of these special refuges, or even rumors as to where they may be, to report such information to your lieutenant or directly to me. Even if you feel sure we are already aware of all you know, I encourage you to come forward. I would rather hear redundant reports than risk missing anything. Since the Society is successfully finding these most confidential refuges, it is time for the Knights to take a more active role in protecting them. Another round of discussion began. One of the masked figures at Kendra's table muttered, "I knew this was coming." Kendra did not like it. If the Sphinx was the captain, as well as a traitor, this would all be working to his advantage. He would be able to pass along everything the Knights of the Dawn knew to the Society of the Evening Star. All she could do was hope she was wrong. Allow me to conclude my remarks dwelling on the positive. All signs indicate that we are entering the darkest chapter of our long history, but we are rising to the occasion. Amid our increasing trials, we continue to score key victories, and we remain a step ahead of our adversaries. We must not relax our efforts. Only with relentless diligence and daily acts of heroism will we overcome our opponents. They are determined, they are patient, they are smart, but I know each of you, and I know we are up to the challenge. The coming season may be our darkest, but I am convinced that it will also be our greatest. Preparations are in motion to weather the coming storm. Many of you will receive new assignments tonight. Much has been asked of you, much is being asked of you, much will be asked of you. I salute your past, present, and future valor. Thank you. As the captain strode away from the lectern, Kendra rose to join the standing ovation. She clapped with her hands, but not her heart. Were they really a step ahead of the Society of the Evening Star? Or had she just heard the leader of the society preaching in disguise? Gavin leaned toward her. Pretty good speech. Nice and short. She nodded. The applause died and the knights began strolling away from the tables. Gavin and Estelle wandered off, and Kendra found herself surrounded by masked strangers. She moved toward a nearby curtained wall and found glass doors that opened to the outside. Kendra tried the handle, found it unlocked, and slipped out into the night. Overhead, beyond a mesh roof, stars brightened a moonless sky, countless pinpricks of light. Kendra found herself in a small screened room with a screened door on the far side. Passing through the door, Kendra entered an enormous screened cage. Lush foliage, including numerous trees and ferns, thrived all around. A man-made stream wound among the vegetation bridged by meandering paths. A rich perfume of blossoms saturated the air. Throughout the caged wilderness, glowing softly among the branches and fronds, glided an exotic variety of fairies. Several congregated above a place where the stream pooled, gazing down at their luminous reflections. Most of the fairies had extravagant wings and unusual coloring. Long, gauzy tails shimmered in the darkness. A fuzzy gray fairy with moth-like wings and tufts of pink fur perched on a nearby branch. A white, sparkling fairy drifted into a bulbous blossom, turning the flower into a delicate lantern. A pair of fairies sped over to Kendra and floated in front of her. One was large and feathery, with elaborate plumage fanning out around her head. The other had very dark skin and fanciful butterfly wings with tiger stripes. At first, Kendra thought they were paying her unusual attention, before she recognized that they were enjoying their reflections in her mask. Kendra remembered that Mr. and Mrs. Fairbanks were fairy collectors. Of course, the fairies could not be kept indoors. If a captured fairy remained inside overnight, she changed into an imp. Apparently, the vast cage did not qualify as indoors. "The curve of the mask makes your head look fat," the feathery fairy giggled to the other. "From my perspective, your rump looks rather blimpish," the striped fairy snickered. "Now, girls," Kendra said, "be kind." The fairies appeared dumbstruck. "Did you hear that?" the feathery fairy said. "She spoke in perfect Sylvian." Kendra had spoken English, but something about her being fairy kind caused many magical creatures to hear her words in their native tongues. She had conversed that way with fairies, imps, goblins, naiads, and brownies. "Take off your mask," the striped fairy ordered. "I'm not supposed to," Kendra said. "Nonsense," the feathery fairy insisted. "Show us your face." "No humans around," the striped fairy added. Kendra raised her mask, giving them a peek before covering her features again. "You're her!" the feathery fairy gasped. "It's true Listen! The striped fairy squealed. The queen has selected a human handmaiden. What do you mean? Kendra wondered. Oh, don't play coy, the feathery fairy chided. I'm not, Kendra said. Nobody ever said anything about being a handmaiden. Take off your mask again, the striped fairy said. Kendra lifted the mask. The striped fairy extended a hand. May I? She asked. Kendra nodded. The fairy laid a tiny palm against her cheek. Gradually, the fairy grew brighter until she was beaming orange stripes into the surrounding foliage. Kendra squinted her eyes against the fiery brilliance. The striped fairy removed her hand and drifted away, the intensity of her radiance fading only slightly. Other fairies flocked to them, hovering curiously. You're dazzling, Kendra said, holding up a hand to shield her eyes. Me? The striped fairy laughed. None of the others are looking at me. I'm barely the moon reflecting the light of the sun. I'm not glowing, Kendra said, noticing that the 20 fairies surrounding them were indeed all staring at her. Not on the same spectrum as I am, the striped fairy said, but you shine much, much brighter. If you were radiating on my spectrum, we would all be blinded. Are you all right, Yoli? The feathery fairy asked. I may have overdone it, Lorena, the striped fairy answered. Care to share the spark? The feathery fairy streaked over to the striped fairy. Yoli kissed the feathery fairy on the forehead. Lorena flared brighter as the striped fairy dimmed. When they parted, their luminance was about equal. Lorena examined the intensified vibrance of her multi-hued feathers. The bright aura shone around her like a rainbow. Magnificent! She cried. This is more manageable, Yoli said, still gleaming. Is she truly a mortal handmaiden? Asked the sparkling white fairy who had illuminated the blossom. Can there be any doubt? Lorena exclaimed. You got brighter because you touched me? Kendra asked. You are a reservoir of magical energy like I have never encountered, Yoli said. Surely you can feel it. I can't, Kendra said. Yet she knew she had magical energy inside of her. How else could she recharge depleted magical relics? Kendra glanced over her shoulder at the screen door behind her and the curtained glass doors of the ballroom. What if somebody came out while her mask was off and she was speaking to fairies? Kendra replaced her mask. Please don't tell any of the other people about me. I have to keep my identity a secret. We won't tell, Lorena pledged. We had better diffuse our energy, Yoli suggested. We're too bright. The difference is too plain. In the plants? Lorena proposed. Yoli tittered. The garden would flourish too quickly. The surplus energy would be unmistakable. We should spread it out among ourselves, then share just a little with the plants. The surrounding fairies cheered, then closed in on the two brightest. Kisses were exchanged until all the fairies shone only mildly brighter than they had originally. Have you any words for us? Lorena asked. Thank you for keeping my secret, Kendra said. You could make it an order in the name of the queen, Yoli prompted. An order? Kendra asked. Sure, if you want the secret kept. Several of the other fairies glared at Yoli. A few quivered with rage. Okay, Kendra said uncertainly. I order you in the name of the queen to keep my identity a secret. Is there anything else we can do for you? Lorena asked. Life here is so frightfully tedious. I can always use information, Kendra said. What do you know about the captain of the Knights of the Dawn? Knights of the Dawn? Lorena asked. Who pays them any mind? I'm a knight, Kendra said. Forgive us, Yoli said. We consider most mortal affairs somewhat trivial. I promise the question is not trivial, Kendra said. We haven't paid enough attention to the knights to know what you're asking, Lorena apologized. All we know about the knights is that Wesley Fairbanks would trade all his wealth to be one. Are Mr. and Mrs. Fairbanks good people? Kendra asked. As far as we can tell, Yoli said, they treat us kindly and give us every possible consideration. Some of us have even condescended to speak with Marian in English on occasion. Do they know any secrets? Kendra asked. The fairies all looked at one another as if hoping one of them might be aware of something. I'm afraid not, Yoli finally said. The couple knows little about our kind. We are simply wondrous novelties to them. Maybe we can put the word out to seek the identity of the captain of the Knights of the Dawn. I'd appreciate it, Kendra said. You don't happen to know anything about secret fairy preserves, do you? Kendra heard a door open behind her. Jumping and turning, she saw a figure in a cloak and a silver mask hurry to the screen door. Behind her mask, she licked her lips. Who could it be? Kendra? Asked Warren. They want to issue your assignment." "Okay," she said, whirling to face the fairies. "Secret preserves?" "Sorry," Lorena said. "We don't really know about secret preserves. Most of us are from the wild." "Thanks for being so helpful," Kendra said. "Our pleasure," Yoli chirped. "Come visit again." Warren held the screen open and Kendra exited. "Be glad you weren't spotted surrounded by chatty fairies," he said. "It just sort of happened," Kendra apologized. "Tanu and I saw you go out. We got into a conversation blocking the door. I kept an eye on you through the curtains. Learn anything?" "Not much, except that these fairies apparently didn't get the memo to give me the cold shoulder." Part of her wanted to say more, but only Grandpa, Grandma, Seth, and the Sphinx knew that Kendra was fairy kind. Disclosing what the fairies had said about her being the Queen's handmaiden might give too much away. Most of her friends at Fablehaven thought that her abilities were a consequence of being fairy struck, which was somewhat less unheard of than her actual condition. Nobody had become fairy kind in more than 1,000 years, so nobody could fill Kendra in on all the specifics. Although she knew it meant that the fairies had shared their magic with her in a way that caused it to dwell inside of her as it did in them, she had never heard herself referred to as the Queen's handmaiden, and was unsure what the expression meant. She knew being fairy kind enabled her to see in the dark, understand languages related to Sylvian, resist certain forms of mind control, recharge magical objects, and apparently transfer some of her energy to fairies. The Sphinx had implied that she probably had other abilities waiting to be discovered. Because her abilities could make her a target of people wishing to exploit her talents, Grandpa insisted on keeping her fairy kind status a secret, even from trusted friends. Warren opened the door to the ballroom where a tall, broad figure awaited. "Is everything all right?" Tanu asked. Warren nodded. He led Kendra across the crowded room and back into the grand hallway. "Who's meeting with us?" Kendra asked. "Your lieutenant," Warren said. "The quick appointment must mean the mission is important. All of the knights are eager to speak with the captain and their lieutenants." "What do you make of everything the captain shared in his speech?" Kendra asked. "We'll discuss that when we have more privacy." And that's where we're going to stop today. I'm on page 94. We will continue tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching and listening, you guys. I hope you're staying safe and having fun and, just making the best of this weird, crazy time. I miss you guys, and I hope that I can be back in the classroom with you guys soon. Okay? Have a great day. All right. Bye.